This is a Stock Trading Reality Podcast, episode 97.
You can get all the training you know that's available, but you have to be able to implement that training. You have to come up with consistent, repeatable processes and treat it like a business. And
this is the Stock Trading Reality Podcast, where you get to see the realistic side of a trader's journey. Get inspired and stay motivated by everyday normal people who are currently on their journey to trading success. And this is your host, who believes you may be a communist if you haven't seen Indiana Jones, Clay Trader.
Once again, the stars have perfectly aligned. These fun facts, they're just put into place, and there's no rhyme or reason to them. They're just there where they're there. So to hear our guests answer to the favorite movie, it resonates with the whole point of this fun fact of Indiana Jones. If you've never seen those movies, then you're, in my opinion, you're a communist. I mean, Indiana Jones movies are like one of those backbone American movie sets, just like the movie that is going to be brought up later on in today's interview. Would you agree with me, Ches? I mean, it doesn't really get any more American than Indiana Jones. I mean, he's fighting the Nazis and all sorts of stuff.
Fighting the Nazis, he's got that great gear on the whole time. It's, I don't think you could have said it any better than you did.
The Indiana Jones theme song, in my opinion, it's right up there, maybe not quite as high as, but one of the most recognizable, maybe with Star Wars theme song. But I mean, Indiana Jones is just, I think most people would hear that and be like, oh yeah, I've heard that before. Maybe not identify with Indiana Jones, but dun, 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 dun. I mean, you know what I'm talking about, Ches, or am I just talking
no. It's something that you'll always have and you'll always know, and I just think it represents America. But I thought it was a great point, Rob. He's just fighting the Nazis, just straight up right there alone.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm not talking about the Crystal Skull. That one doesn't count. I'm talking about the original three. I mean, Sean Connery in the third. All right, this is not a movie. Maybe we should start a movie podcast, Ches, because I feel like we could just talk and talk and talk, but this is not a movie podcast, so I'm not trying to confuse anybody. We are a trading podcast, so we should probably talk about trading, and that's exactly what we do with our guests today. Chris, he is a member of the chat room and Clay Trading University and all that. Not super active in the chat room because he does have a job that keeps him busy, and then he's got a crazy commute, as we learn, but that has led him to make some very interesting observations about kind of free education and that, because he's got a lot of time in the car, so he has a lot of time to listen to things, and he doesn't bash free education, but just interesting observations that we've never really heard before. And he's got a pretty wild ride, as he admits. He's blown up his account several times, and he's learned from that. He's still learning, and I don't want to give anything else away, so let's just hop right in and hear about Chris and his story. Hey Chris, welcome to the show.
Thanks.
We were talking a little bit before we got the whole recording going, and Chris is in Chicago. And at the time of this recording, we kind of bonded over the fact that we're both in two extremely cold locations at this point in time. Of course, I'm in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Like I said, Chris is in Chicago, and it's that time of the year where there's lots of white stuff out there. And Chris was telling us a funny story that, as having kids myself, I can totally relate to. He told his kids that he figured, you're not going to have school tomorrow. And then here they do, Chris, and they have school, right?
Yep.
So you kind of had to deal. You set
Better
up
get him a pizza or something.
Yeah, you got some figuring out to do, I guess, when they get home from school. But I could totally see myself doing that too at some point. Oh yeah, you're not going to have school, and then sure enough, they have school. In fact, growing up, did you ever have that, Ches? Because I know you grew up in Chicago. I can remember a couple times where my parents, weatherman forecast turned out to be totally false, and my hopes and dreams were crushed.
Yeah, the armchair meteorologist that never comes through.
Yeah.
So I would always, when we would actually have snow days, or it was just too cold and they would close the school because something would break. But then we never realized or thought about the fact that they add those days on in summer at the end of the year. So we'd love having a snow day, and then we're like, an extra day during when it's warm out. So it cuts both ways.
Sorry, kids, we can't go to the July 4th fireworks because you have school. So. But all right, anyways, I just found that was pretty funny. So, but Chris, he said he's pretty much listened to all the podcasts. So He kind of knows what he's getting himself into, but hey, we're happy to have him. And let's start at the start. So what got you interested in the markets? Where were you kind of in life that just presented you with a kind of opportunity to check out the markets? And then what eventually led you to get serious enough to want to look deeper into it?
Well, for me, I think it's been a lot of stops and starts. I think like a lot of the past guests, I was introduced to the markets in high school, but didn't take it too seriously. I don't even remember much of it, but I didn't really think that it was something that was attainable or something that I could do. That was still when we had newspapers, and you had to go look at for us it was the Tribune, and look at the stock prices and come in and make guesses on what you felt the stock was going to do. So that was probably my first introduction, but I had a couple along the way. I had an economics class in college, and I had a good professor, but still didn't quite get the gist of it. And in college, I just finished my MBA, and it was very similar. It's more about fundamentals. It's not about technical analysis. So it's a very different approach to the market.
Looking at supply chains, looking at revenue over this and EPS and all that kind of stuff. And we get it that, economics is supply and demand, and there's a lot of macro things that go on with it. But yeah, same situation for me in college. Nobody ever talked about, hey, this is an ascending triangle, and this is what this can kind of symbolize and stuff. It just seemed to be something that was never ever talked about. And honestly, everybody knows who Warren Buffett is and kind of the whole value investing thing. And I think a lot of people unfortunately believe that that's the only way to kind of trade and make money in the market. But obviously, as Clay's live videos prove, day after day, that Clay can trade for 20 seconds and make some money if he knows what he's doing. So yeah, pretty cool. So obviously you kind of go through that in college. Now, did you start putting your money into the market when, say, you got a job and started having retirement accounts set up, or what actually got you putting your money into the market?
I had this buddy that would always introduce me to the next best thing, and he got involved in stock options through this guy called Wade Cook.
Hey, we've had him on. Was that Pat? Sorry, not to cut you off, but I think Patty talked about him, didn't he, Ches?
Yep, yeah, he did.
Okay, I thought so.
Yeah, it was. I actually bought a couple of the books, and that was my first introduction to options, and I bought it hook, line, and sinker. But I wasn't nearly as deep as my friend was. He did all the seminars. He had the books. He was pretty deep in that guy's program.
What, just out of curiosity, to establish a timeline, what year-ish is this at this point?
I'm trying to remember. So it had to be around 1999, maybe 2000, because at some point he ended up in prison.
Yeah, that's why I remember that name, because previous guest Patty, yeah, he had a run in too with them. Now, I don't remember, what was he more of the advanced options, iron condors, credit spreads, stuff like that, or is he more, directional options? What was his whole kind of spiel in regards to, let me ask it this way, what was your first impression of options? How should they be used, given that, you stumbled upon them through this guy?
Well, it felt like, if I remember correctly, it was pretty heavy directional. It was a lot of covered calls, and which isn't directional, but it was a lot of covered calls. There was definitely directional trading, but he also did a lot of books on how to get out of paying taxes through like what's it called, Nevada corporation. It's kind of hiding behind some of these corporate structures.
Tax shields, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's ultimately what landed him in prison.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it, because there's a right way to do it, and then unfortunately there's the sneaky way, which when it comes to money and Uncle Sam has a lot of resources to make sure that you're paying up what you're supposed to pay up. So I wouldn't doubt if that was ultimately what landed him in the clinker.
Yeah,
so
especially when you're not a tax professional. Well, I guess, I don't know, maybe he was a CPA or a tax attorney, but I don't think so. So that's... kind of a double whammy. Sorry to cut you off, Ches, but proceed onwards, my friend.
Yeah, so you go through this now. you said you had read a couple of the books. Now you're applying what is taught. I'm assuming you didn't do any practice or anything like that, did you? You just kind of went into the market with it.
Yeah,
Okay.
and back then we didn't have things like Thinkorswim. You had paper trading was true paper trading, so it was very different. At least from what I can remember, I ended up putting money in I ended up getting into the market through something called I think it was My Discount Broker. They're not around anymore, obviously, but my buddy helped set me up, with all the questions and stuff, so I was able to trade options. And I didn't put a ton of money. I think I put a couple grand in, and I had some success and thought I was pretty smart at that point. But obviously we all know it was really more luck than anything, because the books didn't really teach you anything. It just kind of whet your appetite so that you'd sign up for his courses and his seminars, mainly his seminars, because that's where he really made his money. It wasn't so much from some of his other programs.
So it was all the famous upsell marketing, where it's just spend a little money here, and then you got to spend a little more, and then you got to spend a little more. So now, were you doing these trades online at this point, or I'm assuming that's what My Discount Broker was. That an online thing, or are you still having to like call things into an actual broker?
No, it was online, and I would do it in between. I do it in between meetings, and what I'd find is that I'd be in a position, and I would get I'd have to go into a meeting or on a call or something, and the positions would get away from me because I wasn't practicing the right the right controls, or putting the right controls in place.
Okay. And also, where were these ideas coming from? Did he have like some sort of newsletter that you signed up for? Or
no.
if not, where exactly were you developing these, the ticker symbols to even trade?
Well, back then it was all tech. So the anything tech. It's actually a funny story. So try not to digress. I know that Ches will keep us on course, right?
Go for it.
I had a friend that I introduced as well. When I started, I had talked to this waitress friend of mine that about stocks and stock options, and so she had a couple customers that worked at the market, and I don't know if it was the Chicago Board of Trade or where it was, but it was somewhere downtown Chicago, and they come in and they talk to her. So she actually put some money behind it. She came to me with this tip about this company that was going. I think it was a company going. I think they were going public. It was a company called Krispy Kreme, and I told her you got to be crazy to invest in first it was a donut company when the tech sector was just crazy, off the hook kind of crazy, and two, I couldn't even find anything about it because I didn't know how to spell Krispy Kreme the way they spelled Krispy Kreme. So for me, I thought I knew what I was doing, and I told her she was crazy, but luckily she didn't listen to me. She listened to her broker friend, and she did make some money off of Krispy Kreme, and I felt like an idiot because I didn't know what Krispy Kremes were.
Well, we call that hindsight, and obviously now we know what that little donut shop Krispy Kreme is doing pretty well across the country and probably around the world at this point. But so that actually brings up an interesting point, though. Trying to cut me off again, Clay?
I'm trying to cut you off, but you may be making the point that I want to make about this, so go for it, and then I'll cut you off again if I have to.
Okay. So what I was going to kind of touch on was, we just brought up the topic of obviously tips.
There we go.
So I want to know, are you primarily looking or getting your trade ideas from these tips, or were you kind of taught how to kind of spot opportunities? Maybe it's implied volatility or something, or what was your method to kind of finding these trades in the first place? Because a lot of people say, I got a newsletter, or I'd go to a stock board and someone's hyping this or hyping that. How did you find your actual trades? Because you brought up the good point. You passed on this tip, which first off I commend you for, because tips are never your own idea, and you have no idea how the other person's going to manage it. But how are you finding your trade ideas?
Before you go though, I just want to piggyback off. And my point here is, yes, this tip here, okay, Chris was wrong to not listen to it. Oh, it was Krispy Kreme, it would have worked out. But remember, there are so many tips that just don't work out. So this is, one that happened to. So for you new listeners out there, the moral of the story and the reason Chris is, his point is not listen to tips, because if you would have listened to tips like I would have made some. No, he's just saying that in this funny instance, it didn't work out. But remember, for every one tip that does work out, there's plenty of tips that do not. So,
I think the point I was trying to make was that I had a little bit of success in the market, and it was just more luck than anything. I was finding I wasn't doing any kind of technical analysis. I had an idea of how to trade options, but it was more directional options, so it's really, really basic options. And then I was just trading companies I knew, like IBM and other tech companies. The IBM is the one that stuck for me because that was the one I had some of my better trades on. But it didn't take too long, and I was quickly out of the market then.
Out of the market because your account
dwindled down to nothing. I mean, stock options, and this has been a fairly consistent theme. I mean, stock options can change your life. It's like like similar to penny stocks, right? You've had videos on this about you can make a ton of money off of the volatility and the changes in the stock options, but you can lose your money just as fast as you can make it. And I definitely learned that lesson.
And that's thank you for bringing it up, because first off, I mean, nobody likes to sit here and be like, yeah, so I blew up my account, or my account dwindled down to nothing. But that's why I like to show. That's why I always admire the guest that just admit it, because we've all been there. I mean, everybody has lost money in the market, and that's the catch-22. And I want you to comment on this, Chris, because it sounds like this is what happened to you is, yes, stock options, yes, penny stocks can make you large sums of money. But when you're making large sums of money, you get, what we talk about all the time on the show, that fool's gold. Or, at the time, in hindsight, Chris saying, yeah, well, that was luck. But at the time, Chris, I'm assuming you thought that was all skill, right? You weren't sitting there like, wow, this is just luck.
Yeah,
And did you think you had some skill at that point?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty easy. And I definitely thought I was a rock star.
Exactly. And the point here is, when you're making money, yes, you can make money as options. But the problem is, when you're making that money, you think that you have it all figured out. So then you start to get bigger with your position size. You start to do more contracts. And then all of a sudden, the way you figure out that you actually don't know what you're doing is you either lose a massive chunk of it, or you just, slow bleed down to eventual nothingness. So
your win streak will start to decline when the luck runs out.
Exactly. And that's the cruel.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean
that. No. Go for it, Chris.
I was going to say I have plenty of examples of that as well. I mean, I've gone through. So I don't know if I told you. So I have a long commute to work. It's about a 70-mile commute each way. So I have a lot of time to take advantage. For years I didn't, and then eventually I started doing podcasts and books on tape, and I listened to so many books on tape about trading, and I'm kind of jumping ahead, but you hear these things, and you're like, oh, who would be so stupid to get caught in a too many day trades, and who would blow up their account? And I've done just about every, I listen to these videos, and when you first listen to it, you're like, oh, that's, you gotta be pretty stupid to do something like that. Well, I'm definitely pretty stupid, because I feel like I've done about all of them.
No, that's it's all these things are all a rite of passage. I've been flagged for the PDT rule before, because in the heat of the moment, that's not what you're focusing on. When your money is actually in the market, it's amazing how much tunnel vision you'll get, especially if your position sizes are definitely larger than they should be. But I think Chris brought up a huge point and a great example that the exact quote was something to the tune of, options can change your life, kind of similar to penny stocks. And what he means by that is, what I'm assuming is that, you can have ones that move hundreds of percent. It's not uncommon in the options market, depending on the move and kind of the magnitude of it for the underlying. But what I always stress to people, because we have a lot of people who are usually interested in either learning how to trade penny stocks or options for the reason that they have a small account. And in their mind, they want to, make a couple 100%er trades and, triple their account. The thing that a lot of people, neglect, and Chris touched on this one as well, is that if your risk management is not absolutely as tight as it can be for options, you can go from 100% gainer one day to literally losing everything you put into that trade the next day. It really is that simple, and there's different management techniques and defensive techniques you can do with options themselves, but ultimately you can go from a big winner to a complete loser in the span of one day with options, if you're not managing your risk. So I just want to bring up that point, because while options are great and, they have that leverage and you can literally trade names, big names with as little as, $20, $10, $50, you could also lose that $50 relatively quickly, instead of just making $50 on top of it. So I just want to bring up that point. Clay, you can take it from here. Sorry for the mini rant.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much, you might drop the whole point there is, what the market giveth, the market will taketh away from those that are just doing it in luck in the first place. And yeah, maybe your streak goes for a month or two, but it'll eventually catch up with you, because the market likes to build hope only to crush it. But I also wanted to comment, because I just have to laugh, because Chris is right. You listen to these stories and you're like, what an idiot. I would never do that. What a freaking moron. I definitely wouldn't do that. And then for me, I see these people, E-Trade. Oh, I use E-Trade. And oh yeah, I'm day trading with E-Trade. And it makes my blood just I just want my head to explode. But then I'm like, wait a second, Clay. You are the idiot that when you first got started, you were using your Fifth Third bank account brokerage, who's some little regional bank that was charging, it was either $30 to buy or $60 to buy. And I paid the most asinine fees ever. So it's just like, I always got to remember, before you jump down the throat to these people that are paying $10 through E-Trade, remember, Clay, when you first got started, you weren't exactly the sharpest tool in the tool shed either. So totally, I love that point, because yeah, we all sit there and think, no, that I'm not that stupid, until, oh yeah, I guess I am that stupid. Or in my case, with the brokerage fees, even stupider. So, but yeah, good point there. So, you're pretty much, well, at this point, you've admitted your count goes down to zero and you get knocked out of the market. So again, is this like mid 2000s? Where are we at, on the timeline?
Yeah, I want to say it was around 2002. I want to say it was around 2002. I went through I went through a divorce during that time. So at that point, I just took backseat to any of it. And the divorce definitely wasn't a result of trading. Thankfully, but anyways, so I was out until probably about, I want to say late 2013 was when I was listening to this podcast. I was listening to a podcast about passive income. I think you might be familiar with it, because the guy that does the introductions, I believe, is the same guy that does the introductions to this podcast. At least he sounds very familiar.
I know who you're talking about, but I'm pretty sure it's not the same. If it is, that's a total coincidence. But
I think it's pretty close, but I know who you're talking about too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So on this podcast, this guy comes on there and he talked about penny stocks, and we all know who we're talking about. Real arrogant, fast talker. Just a marketer. And at least I could sense that. Something wasn't quite right with this guy, but I had a lot of confidence in the guy that ran the podcast. So, I felt like I respected I think he had a high credibility measure in my eyes. So I thought, okay, well, maybe this guy's got something to him. So I went on his website and took a look at some of the stuff that he was offering, and I was really turned off by all the just kind of the in-your-face kind of marketing spiel that he would do.
You weren't digging the girl in a bikini laying on a Lamborghini? I mean,
well, I was digging it, but I wasn't buying into it. Right?
You were I like that. There's a big difference between digging something and then actually buying into it. Well said.
So I was so I had this long commute, so I would take that time and I would. I'd listen to everything I possibly could, whether it's podcasts or YouTube videos. So I would just stream through my speakers in the car and just listen to them. And I didn't have to see anything. I just needed, it just helped me kind of understand what was going on. And when I had time at home or at work, I would look at the stock charts and do more research and so that's I started getting interested in the penny stocks because I felt, well, options were too complicated for me. I wasn't gonna go back into options, and when I went back into options, I think it was the marijuana stocks were booming at the time. But I jumped in when the ship had sailed. I think the last marijuana stock that I had was the PHOT, and I bought it. I'd say it was a couple days before their stock was frozen.
Ooh.
And luckily I wasn't heavy in it, so I didn't lose a lot. But I still have. I don't even know what I have. I haven't gone back. It was an E-Trade account because that was what he was pumping. I don't use E-Trade now, but I was using E-Trade at the time. And I haven't gone back in, and so I'm sure there's something in there. Maybe not. I don't really care at this point. But it was that was my first introduction into the penny stocks, and so I thought, okay, well, maybe the marijuana thing isn't quite where I should focus. Let me look at some of this other stuff. So I would subscribe to. There were subscriptions where you could find out when there's press releases coming out on penny stock companies, and and where there was. And I don't know if it was BS that they're just pumping through, because I didn't really get any real insight from these services I was paying for, and they weren't tips. I didn't believe in paying for tips, because. As you spoke to, I've never paid for tips in that sense. I paid for tips like this company just sent out this press release, but not tips like, hey, you need to invest in this company. I never believed in that, because
why
you
not?
have to,
That's curious.
well,
I definitely agree with you, but just curious why you never. Because I mean, so many do, but why did you just? I mean, that clearly didn't float your boat.
You don't understand. You don't always understand. So I have people I work with and that get into trading as well, and they're like, "Oh, just tell me what to buy, and I'll put money in it." I don't tell them anything, and they've paid for services, and they're like, "Oh, the service was great this week, and then next week it was awful," and they just don't understand they don't understand how to pick a company. They don't understand why that person picked the company. They don't understand the analysis that went into it. So they really can't stand on their own. They're always dependent on somebody else to give them advice. And for me, I want to use trading as either the next step for me in life after I retire, or something to augment my current income. Either way, I enjoy it, so I definitely will be involved in it. But I just, I haven't figured out exactly kind of where I want to take it, but I want to be able to have control in deciding on what I invest in, and as he invests is where I'm trading, where I'm putting my money. I just would prefer to be in the driver's seat when I'm trading.
So you want to know how to catch your own fish is what you're pretty much getting at there.
Yeah, and I'm definitely you got a long way to go. I think this is a journey. It's not a sprint, and it feels like I constantly feeling like there should be this cartoon that goes through all the different things that traders go through, the journey of trading, and it'd be like all the different emotional roller coasters that you go through, and in the end it's really like a 5-minute span, but in that 5 minutes you can go from exuberation and thinking you're rich, and in the next couple minutes you realize, I just lost my opportunity, and then in the
next 10 seconds, so you get all excited again because the price might start to go up in your direction just a favor, and then all of a sudden it snaps back down and you're back to being depressed and angry. I like that. That would make a good cartoon. And the key, like you said, the kicker would be when all this happens in like 5 minutes, or like
exactly
120 seconds, something crazy like that. So where were you finding the penny stock ideas? Were you on the message boards for this, or was it just strictly those newsletters that you were signing up for?
Oh, how was I finding the penny stocks? I don't remember. It was FinViz. I would go to FinViz and I would just look at activity to see where the activity was on FinViz. It wasn't through the message boards. I just don't like the message boards. It just felt too just kind of dirty. I don't just never got into the.
I'm with you, Chris. I'm with you there on that feeling of it.
And you know what though, some things I did learn from some of the courses. So I didn't sign up for his course, but I did sign up for another course through one of the groups that he's affiliated with, and some of it was okay. I thought that you learn that most of these companies are crap, and you can't trust anything that you read. So that was definitely something that I took away from that. So I definitely didn't jump into any of these message boards and believe what was being said. But I think that there's probably some opportunity that you can harvest from some of this stuff that some of the pumping that goes out, and knowing kind of the emotional how they're marketing to people and understand how to take advantage of that. I don't know, but that's definitely not something that I trade in.
So safe to say penny stocks they just don't float your boat. You want a little bit more of greener pastures. Is that
Yeah, no, that's true. So I had, I would run into these situations where I was investing in or putting money in these penny stocks, and then the volatility would just dry up and you couldn't get out. You'd sitting on positions, and so I just said, I need to get back into either stock options or stocks or something that has more volume, more volatility. And so I did. I ended up going back into stock options. I did a lot of more research on stock options, and I'm trying to think if I still hadn't come into the CTU yet at that point. I had done a ton of I was still doing free education. I still spent money on education, but I was still doing a lot of free education wherever whenever I could take advantage of it.
And honestly, that's not surprising at all. I started my journey with, down the rabbit hole of Google and Investopedia and stuff like that. And by no means am I discounting it, but, we stress a lot that a lot of this stuff is just unstructured. You're only seeing maybe a sliver of the information out there. And I mean, you completely nailed it in the sense of, there's a lot of services out there that are literally just crap. Just, and there's no real way to know, unfortunately, until you kind of join one and see it firsthand. So it doesn't surprise me at all that, I personally would have a bad taste in my mouth if, I go through a couple of these services and they're, I'm not making any money with them. So, I don't need them. I'm not going to give my money to anybody. I'm going to go down the free route. So, but you kind of brought up a good point. You said you know that you have to get back into, or you'd like to get back into stocks or stock options, something that doesn't have a liquidity problem. Because I'm assuming that was kind of your big issue when the volatility dried up in those penny stocks. You couldn't find a buyer essentially to get out, right?
Yeah, and yeah, it was pretty bad. So I started looking at stock options, and because the penny stocks are great, but you have to be in there when things are hot and heavy, and get in and get out.
But to your point also, they can all hot and heavy. Yes, you nailed it on the head, but they can get cold and somber in a hurry, just like that. Yeah. And then to your point, and a lot of people, so for you new listeners out there, you're thinking penny stocks is the route. I'm not saying it's not the route. Maybe it is for you, but those 300% gainers, those 200% gainers, those 80% gainers, there's a catch-22 there because, they make those moves, but if, they're making those moves on, $50,000, that may sound like a lot, but if you're not, to steal Chris's words, take advantage of those hot and, heavy movements, then you can literally sit there like, hey, I want to sell. Does anybody want to buy? And somebody may want to buy, but you're going to be thinking, wait, you're only willing to buy for that price, but I paid this price for it. And then you're literally stuck because who's going to want to sell for 60% less than what you bought it for? But that's how penny stocks work. And because, they're just not liquid. And when they are liquid, that's when you have to take advantage of it. But that can dry up in a hurry. And then, like Chris said, volatility's gone. And then all of a sudden, it literally becomes a situation of where you could be sitting there and the question's going to come across your head. Wait a second. If I want to sell, I have to sell for 70, 60, 50% less than what I bought it for. And that's what the market is going to tell you. Yep, if you want out, if you want to be able to sell your shares, you're going to lose 50% of your money. And that can happen very, very quickly. So, yeah, penny stocks can move, but they can also all of a sudden change moods on you very quickly. And then you're looking at a very different situation. So,
yeah, I think the other point too is when you're trading, you have to make sure that that is set up properly. So, for instance, if I'm trading penny stocks, or I'm going to trade these, these small companies, or or even day trading, you have to be able to take advantage of level twos. And most of the time, I'm at work if I'm trying to get in on a trade, and they control or they block the ability to use level twos through the network. I'm not quite sure why, but there's definitely a block. So I'm not able to use it. So I'm restricted on being able to do that kind of trading. And it's not just the level twos. It's if I've run into times where the only time I can trade is at lunch. So I stopped trying to trade at lunch because it's just a bad time. I don't like trade unless there's something that's moving. I try to only trade in the morning and in the afternoons, because that's when there's movement.
That's such a good point, because it's the equivalent. Level twos are important, but level twos are a must-have for penny stocks without question. But I mean, to your point, if you're going to go play, a football game, American football for you international listeners. So if you're going to go to a football game and then your quote unquote work says, no, we're going to block you using a helmet. How long are you going to last in that football game without a helmet when everybody else has helmets? You're going to be brain dead on the sideline in a pretty quick amount of time. So to Chris's point, show up prepared. If you're going to be trading penny stocks, I'm sorry, but if your job blocks level twos, then guess what? You're not going to be trading penny stocks, because you are not prepared for the game. You do not have the right equipment. You do not have the right tools to be able to succeed at it. And, that's just, I guess, how the cookie crumbles. But if you think that you're going to be able to play penny stocks without level twos in the long term, then, you go play football with a bunch of other football players that actually have helmets on and you don't have helmet. And, hopefully that analogy kind of clears the way. So, but excellent point there. You need to be prepared.
Yeah, it's just like anything. If you're trading against the other guy, and if the other guy has all the tools of the trade, you're at a disadvantage. So, you want to put yourself in a position where you're trying to level set as much as you possibly can. Or you're always against the eight ball, whether it's, the fees are too high, the timing, they're a much higher bandwidth or speed than you are. It just, there's so many things that could work against you. Why add more to it?
That is very true. There's already enough against you. Why add more to it? That's a great quote. That'll be in the show notes for sure, because absolutely. So you figure out penny stocks are not liquid enough. You decide you want to get back into stock options. And at this point, it sounds like you're doing a mix of free education, just randomness. You're paying for some stuff. But is it fair to say that even through that, your wheels are still just spinning in the mud?
Yeah. I think, you talked about free education. You can definitely get some information out of free education. I did podcasts and YouTube videos, just hundreds. I've got 3 hours a day of just in the car time. So there's lots of opportunity, but you have to put a lot of time to get just a little bit of, really good, meaty information. There's just so much crap that you have to weed through. And it's hard enough when you've got good content, but when you've got, not so good content, it takes a long time to get a little bit out of it. So, I at some point, I don't remember when I signed up for the CTU. I didn't.
Out of curiosity, how did you even come across the site in general? I always like to ask people that, just because, was it through YouTube or was it through social media? But how did you even come about, claytrader.com?
It was through YouTube. I came across some of your YouTube videos, watched a bunch of the videos, and I wasn't quite ready to commit. Even for the the membership, just the was it 99
Yeah, the Inner
Yeah,
Circle
Inner Circle.
membership.
Inner Circle. Yeah, so I wasn't even quite ready for that. So I listened to some of the podcasts. I watched some of the videos, and I'm like, okay, so $99 is not that much. I'll jump in, and and as we talked about earlier, I'm not in that much, so it's not like I really got the benefit of the Inner Circle, because I think there's when you get onto these services, there's a lot more to it than just the training. There's the camaraderie that you get, because it can be stressful, lonely at times, but if you're doing this all day long, especially, but if you're, it's definitely stressful, and finding people that are like-minded, that understand this, because I've tried to connect with people at work, and and it's frustrating because they don't want to put the time in education, they don't want to put the time in doing any research to find their own. They just want people to pick it for them. And there's a couple people that I work with that really understand stock options, to where I can have a good conversation about it, but not too many.
I think that brings up a great point too, because when I was actually discovering this community and Clay and what he kind of offered, I only had one person on my job, and I worked in a building with like multiple hundred people. One person in the world who was actually kind of passionate about the market and wanted to learn how to kind of read charts. And granted, that was for Bitcoin way back in the day. The same kind of applies. It can definitely be kind of a lonely place, and we've touched on this on other podcasts before. But I actually know somebody who's traded in the markets for over 25 years, and he goes, we used to have weekly meetups at the coffee shop. We like set up a meeting thing, because all day, you might be sitting at your screen by yourself talking to nobody. And the thing is that we're not saying you need to talk to people to kind of get other trade ideas or do that. But the thing is that it can be a lonely kind of proposition to trade in the market. I mean, it's just you versus the screen, and you don't understand when you're sitting here that it's, thousands and millions of other people and millions and billions of dollars on the other side. All you see is kind of the movements on your screen, and, that camaraderie and, support, especially. That was a big thing for me when I was first starting out. I wasn't doing too well at all. Just the support of a community can make all the difference in the world to maybe give you, hey, I can actually do this. And, sometimes it's that support that you really need to kind of push forward.
Yeah, and I like to. Go ahead, Chris.
Oh, go ahead. I was going to say I agree. I think it's a bit of a double-edged sword too, because everybody's got an opinion, and they give you an opinion about what you should do, or which company they're trading, and why they're trading it. I've got someone that's he's super opinionated and tells me I'm crazy if I'm trading something, especially when it goes wrong. But she's a long-term trader, and I try to get in and out as fast as I can. I don't like to hold stocks for too long, and so I think one of the things that's good about the Inner Circle is the way you structure it, so that when people are putting comments out there, they're giving context of what time frame, what stock. There's the lounge, which is a little bit different, but the above $1, under $1, those they're talking about the 30-minute. They're talking about certain technicals. It's not Facebook's running right now. That it does that. There's no value in that, because you have no context of time. You have no context of are they looking to hold this for a few days, a few weeks, a few minutes. So I think it's important when you're talking with people that they're either similar in their style as you, or you understand their style and understand when what they're saying just doesn't make sense for you.
Absolutely. And context is king, because you're right. Facebook is running. To one person, that could mean, yes, Facebook is running. But to another person, they could be thinking Facebook is crashing right now. Example, if you're a swing trader and Facebook has been on an uptrend for the past 2 weeks, you are sitting there saying Facebook is running. But if you're a day trader and you care about what happens every 2 minutes, and you look at somebody saying Facebook is running, you're going to be thinking, what are you talking about? I see like 3-4 red candles down right now. Well, yeah, maybe on a 2-minute context, it's pulling back. But on the daily context, Facebook is running. So to Chris's point, you got to you want it all to be apples to apples. You don't want apples and oranges mixing together, because that's where things get cloudy. And to kind of just piggyback off both Ches and Chris here, what I like about the community is if I go up to, a friend and be like, man, these voices are wreaking havoc on me right now. They're going to be like, all right, Clay, we're going to take you to the mental ward right now, and we're gonna check you in. What are you talking about? Voices wreaking havoc.
Put them in the loony bin.
Yeah,
padded rooms for them.
Exactly. But I can go to the inner circle chat room and be like, hey, fellettes, if that's what you call ladies, hey people, there we go. Hey people, the voices are wreaking havoc on me, and nobody's going to judge me. They're going to know exactly what I'm talking about, because they go through the exact same things, because we're all traders. And that's why, and I'm not talking about just, this is not a sales pitch for the inner circle. If there's another chat room that you're thinking about that you seem, wow, I feel really comfortable, I like, then surround yourself with other like-minded people, because there's trading. We're a unique bunch. We are weirdos. We do have voices that talk to us. We do have to deal with all sorts of random voices that confront us on a daily basis. And if you just want to be able to get the support and kind of just, camaraderie, like Chris said, then, chat rooms are a great place for that, because it's a culture that understands one another. And as long as the culture is apples to apples and not apples to oranges, I mean, you can't mix investors and traders in the same room and then I expect it to be a solid support system, because, well, people are going to have different contexts. But I mean, the key thing is, now, if you have people where you can, in your life, where you can just say, the voices are wreaking havoc and they're not going to look at you cross-eyed, well, then fine. But for me, in my situation, and I know, Ches has talked about it before, most people would look at us and think you're crazy if you're talking about voices that are in your head. So I have no idea how we got onto this talking point, but that was a good talking point indeed. So, but that is a fantastic point. Facebook is running. Facebook is running means absolutely nothing. If you understand what Chris is talking about when he says that, good. I'm not going to say that you're like a professional trader, but you're definitely on the right path. If you're listening, they're saying, wait, how can Facebook is running be a worthless statement? Well, then take that as a sign that you just got to have some more learning to do. So you join the inner circle at first, it sounds like. What made you eventually want to join CTU, Clay Trader University? And how long did that actually take after you had joined the chat room?
I want to say it was probably, like I said, I go in and out of the inner circle, so I want to say it was maybe 6 months or so that I got some extra money, and I said, okay, I'm just going to jump right in. I didn't buy a class. I'd have to look at the one that the one that really resonates the most with me, but I ended up I paid for the whole CTU, and I just started from the beginning and went through the training. Now there's still a lot that I haven't gone through, but there's quite you do a fantastic, and there was no conversation. This is no pitch. I get nothing out, but you did a fantastic job. I've done a number of different trainings, and I think the resources you make available that go along with the training is great, because it allows you to go, like for me, because I'm in the car, I can download a video and I can listen to it. I'm not using up all my bandwidth. There's things I can do, or there's PowerPoints that come with it, or is it PDFs, but I think PowerPoint, but I don't think I haven't come across anyone that makes the training available like that after the training. It just, you have to keep coming back in order to view it. It's not something you can kind of take and view at your leisure wherever wherever it's convenient for you.
Yeah, and that really does, Clay, I also want to commend you on kind of the way you structured it, because honestly, it's safe to say, Chris, you'd agree that this is a very, very, Clay put a lot of thought into producing it, yeah. And actually to the point where you can kind of, it's broken into modules. So, I think about other money that I've wasted in other services where, it might be a live webinar for 2.5 hours, and say there's one point that I wasn't clear about and I want to go back. I'm now trying to, scroll through this video, trying to find that specific spot, and it's just very, very difficult. You can't, just jump right to what you want to. But you brought up a good point too. Is that so? What courses have you actually gone through already?
I'd have to go. Let's see.
You've taken RVR though, right?
Yeah, I've done RVR.
Okay,
I
good.
think RVR was my um, robotic training. I thought was
Yeah, you would have probably if you
one of
said
my
you went through
favorite.
them during in the order that's recommended.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah. So
No,
you
I haven't done the penny stock mastering level 2. I didn't do those because like I said, I can't do level 2, so I didn't do it. And penny stocks, not that I get it, but I didn't.
yeah,
It wasn't something I was gonna play in, so I didn't
yeah.
do that one.
Penny stock one is definitely, I
Um,
mean, I always tell people to take it just for entertainment purposes only because even if you don't do penny stocks, I mean, that's from the feedback I've gotten is people just get a kick out of it because penny stocks, like you said, it's just such a dirty place. Money to be made, but you got to be willing to get a little bit dirty to make money. So at present
but
time, are you paper trading right now? Or are you trading with real money? Walk us through kind of where you're standing right now. Because looking up at the time, I don't know where it's gone, but we got to start to wrap things up.
oh, it's
So
40. Yeah,
walk us through.
yeah. So I don't paper trade enough. So I've done real trading. Um, I don't put the time into doing the paper trading. I think if there's one of the things that I really need to um, stress or work on is, because there's that book where they talk about, was it 20,000 hours or 10,000 hours or whatever the number of hours that you're supposed to have where you master something, and you're not going to master it with your own money. Um,
You generally
doing it
won't have
daily
enough
down.
money to make you
Yeah,
through the 10,000 hours. Yeah, that's
yeah. I've
it.
blown up my account too many times that I just and yeah. So I've blown up my account multiple times because I just because of stupid things, my emotions. That's probably the biggest thing. It's not from we talk about training. You get all the training that's available, but you have to be able to implement that training. You have to come up with consistent, repeatable processes and treat it like a business um, and not like you're going to the casino. And I've done it too many times where my emotions get ahead of me and I'm being careless, and then next thing you know, the market's teaching me a lesson.
So you're trading with
So
real
I
money
do,
right now,
yeah,
but you
real
probably
money.
shouldn't be. Is that what you're getting at? You should probably be paper trading. Is that what or
No, no, I still like to be in the market. So I trade in the market. I use real money. I just bring my size down, and try to. And what I need to do is spend more time, is kind of creating. Because what I end up doing is I'm doing like, for instance, in the summer I got just beat up because the SPY didn't do anything. I don't remember the last time I've seen it so flat through the whole summer. I was
that was a
trying to
big
do
channel for
directional
sure.
option trading. Oh my god, I should have just been doing spreads and not, because I only do options. I very seldom do I do any stocks, and I was just getting beat up because it wouldn't do anything, and I'm was waiting for it to take some kind of direction, and because I have moments in time where I can take advantage of it, it was really hard to really capitalize on any opportunity with the SPY. Um, so what I ended up doing, I went to FinViz. I said, I'm looking for a runner, and I came across GoPro, and I know you have a video that you talk about GoPro where I think you might have gotten bit by
Yes,
GoPro.
there's a blog article we'll put that in the show notes where I broke some of my own personal rules in my investment account with GoPro, and yeah, long story short, it spanked
Yeah,
me for a $1,500 loss. But like, if you're more interested in that, you can check the show notes. We'll link to that article.
yeah. GoPro is a child abuser because it spanked me multiple times. And it's not it's so I at times I would go in on the upside where I'm expecting GoPro to make a run, and it would and I was wrong, which is fine. But then there'd be times where GoPro's crap. I'm only going to short this thing. I'm only going to take short positions on it. And the thing I forget, or I forgot over the I think it was October or August where it made just a little bit of a run and I got burned. Um, is when companies are heavily shorted, it starts to make a run. It'll make a heavy run because you got all those people that are shorting that stock that are closing their positions, and because I couldn't figure out why is this thing moving. There's no positive news. There's no reason this company's poorly managed. Why is it running? And that's the only thing I could figure out is it was because people are closing their short positions, and because I was doing options, I was getting burned because I was taking short positions, and it wasn't ready to go back short.
Yeah,
If that makes any sense.
yes, you were getting squeezed because the shorts were creating almost a self-fulfilling prophecy of squeezing, because to get out of a short, you need to buy. For you new listeners out there, and when you buy, prices go up, which means more shorts are losing money, which means they need to buy to get out, and it's kind of just a vicious little cycle. Now, if you're on the long side, you absolutely love that, but that's just a classic short squeeze. And GoPro, the short interest in that one has been pretty crazy. So as it stands right now, you're in the market, but you realize you still have quite a few things to work on. So you're just using very small size. Is that a fair assessment of your current status of things?
Yeah, and actually, it's not a bad thing because it's kind of forcing me to take smaller positions. Because what I was doing is I would take bigger positions. I continue to take bigger positions, and it's depending on the type of type of trade or the company you're trading. It's not scalable because you're running where you're the big guy on the block, and it's hard to fill orders. So it's forced me to be better at taking smaller size.
Yeah, and that's we always tell people that most likely, especially when you're new, you are trading too large for your account. And I've absolutely nothing against people trading with very small size. I mean, Clay, we've talked to many people before where they've gone from trading 100 shares down to 50 shares down to 25 shares. And the thing is that while you might not be making a ton of money with 25 shares, the thing is, once you find what you're comfortable with, what you can spot and repeat over and over again, and prove to yourself that you can minimize your losses, then you can go back to 50 shares and you can go to 75 shares and kind of go up from there. But yeah, it is definitely paper trading is an interesting thing, especially if you don't treat it kind of realistically. So I'm totally fine with that. Now, what would you say you do for kind of daily routines? I know you spend a lot of time in the car, so do you kind of take a look at the market the night before to kind of think of some trades, or are you doing stuff during kind of like your lunch break at work? What do your routines look like for how you're going to plan your trades out?
No, I actually I usually try to stick with a couple companies that I try to become fairly intimate in the way they move. That way, it's almost like you become a sniper. So when those opportunities do come up where it looks like it's forming a particular position, I like to watch the trends, and then when it does a retracement, it looks like it's going to bounce off of a trend. Those are opportunities rather than just jumping in and not being very familiar with what that company does. So, like for instance, when I said I was trading GoPro, that was all I was trading for probably 2 months, and did quite well. I had no problem with it doing that. There's plenty of movement throughout the day in some of these companies, and I'm not advocating trading GoPro and by any stretch, but but there's plenty of companies that move that you can, Facebook's, Google's, Tesla's, where if you're careful, you can take advantage of.
Right, and to your point, with the nice thing about options is, now for me as a trader that doesn't necessarily do options all the time or anything, I have to get out the scanners. I'm just looking for ticker symbols. What's moving? What's going on? And I'm constantly searching for ticker symbols that some I've never heard of before. Some, I think I traded that like 4 months ago. Others I might be familiar with. But for the options players, and when he said he wants to get intimate with, or when he was intimate with GoPro, he just means, because I did a video, called Getting Romantic with Options. Nice thing is you just pick a few options and you get to know their personality. You take them out for a few dates and you just get to know them. Talk to them, watch them, observe them. Now he got a little gruesome by throwing in, now you sniper them, which is a good analogy. As an analogy fan myself, that's a good way. But you can become a sniper, and then you don't have to worry about digging through the 4,500 ticker symbols that are out there, whatever it is. I mean, you can have a select few baskets of stocks, which I know Ches does too, and you just get to know them, and you can trade very comfortably with them. So that's a very time efficient way to manage things, especially in your case when you have a job. So I know you're familiar with this because, as you told us, you've listened to many of the past podcasts. But Ches does indeed have a time machine, and I'm going to speak for him, even though I think that might be kind of rude to do, but he'll get over it, I think. But if I were to lend you Chez's time machine and you could go back, I don't know. I'll let you pick whether it's, you want to go back to 2013 when you were getting back into the market or way back in the 90s. But if you could go back and give yourself one bit of advice, what would that piece be?
A bit of advice, I think, is you just got to persevere. Is to keep chugging along, because I quit back in too soon and didn't give myself a chance to kind of get up to speed, train, educate myself. So I think if I would have gone back in time and actually, it would just stay in the market. Just keep working at it.
And it's a constant thing, and I say it in every podcast that, trading in the market is not like you go through some courses and then you're done, your education level is complete. The market is always changing. There's always new players and players that are leaving, and its behaviors and what it's going to do. Don't get me wrong, things repeat, and you can totally use the same methodology. I mean, Clay, you've traded the same way for
I was going to
10 years
nitpick
now.
at me. Yes, the market changes, but emotions do not. There's greed,
That's
fear,
right.
panic. That stuff always remains the same, which is why I like charts, because, if you're fundamentals, then heck yeah, balance sheets are always changing. Companies are always changing management. There's PE ratios that are always changing, but emotions, which is what technical charts measure, people don't change. Emotions are what they are. Even those people that are programming the computer programs, emotions don't change. And that's
all
the one.
Humans, all kind of repeatable processes. Human psychology is definitely a fascinating thing.
So yes, I agree. I agree with you, Chez, with the asterisk that emotions do not change, however.
Correct. Now, Chris, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on today. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you.
But I know, Clay, I'm going to take this question from Clay, even though I sometimes take it too, since he's been borrowing my time machine so often lately. What is your favorite movie?
I actually had quite a bit of angst about this one, because I don't have necessarily a favorite, but I know I need to pick one.
You can give a couple, or a genre or something like that.
I like there's times in your personal history, like E.T. and
I almost cried just thinking about that.
the Star Wars trilogy, The Rock. I mean, as bad as the acting was, that I can always turn on and watch one of the Rocky movies. 1, 2, or 3. I'd say probably the ones that I would probably Rocky would be one of my favorites. I don't know why.
Hey, all that tells me is that you're straight up American. That's what I hear when I hear that you like Rocky. Would you agree, Chez? That just has American written all over it.
Yep, that does have America written all over it. And to kind of tie that into your favorite meals, are you going to tell me like hot dogs and burgers and fireworks and stuff like that?
Lasagna is actually my favorite meal.
Okay, you're in Chicago. Chicago has quite a bit of Italian influence, right?
Well, I mean, Chicago deep dish pizza is just pretty much cheese lasagna with some bread and some sauce in it. But yeah, definitely.
Yeah, no, my wife makes some great lasagna, and that's definitely my favorite.
Nice. Well, Rocky and lasagna, that sounds like a good Friday night to me. I mean, I don't think it gets much better than that. What about hobbies outside of the markets?
Well, I mean, there's things I like to do, but I wouldn't call them hobbies. Because I spend so much time driving, and I got 4 kids that there's not a whole lot of time for personal hobbies. But I do like to go snowboarding. No desire to go out there right now, but I'm hoping to get out to Colorado this February to do some snowboarding.
I know a guy who lives in Colorado.
Yeah, I was going to say, sounds great. Just send me an email and I'd be happy to come meet up with you. But I actually just went to Copper Mountain on a Friday, and it was beautiful. We got about 4 or 5 inches of snow while I was there. But yeah, it was still in the 30s, and then the next day it was like negative 15 is the high on the mountain. So I picked a good day to go when I went. But Chris, what would you say are 3 words you believe should be associated with successful trading?
Well, I don't think any of these are new. I think patience. You got to be patient in what the market gives you, and know that it's not going to come right away. I think you have to have perseverance, because it's going to kick you in the teeth over and over. And you just have to know that that's just part of the learning process. And then I think mindful. Yeah, I was kind of toying between mindful and management, is because you got to be mindful in how you trade and run it. If you want it to be like a business, you got to run it like a business. You got to develop these consistent processes which I'm still working on myself. And like I said, this is a journey. It's going to continue to be something that I'll continue to build on.
Well said. I like those 3 words for sure. Mindful might have been a new one. I'm not sure on that, but even I like repeats because it just goes to show you that, this isn't, it's not changing, to be successful in trading. It's not like there's a bunch of different things you got to do. There's really kind of just a repeatable theme that we've seen unfold over the all the podcasts. And yeah, I mean, patience is definitely one of them, and perseverance. You got to have that. So well said. Well, thanks, Chris, for hanging out. And I guess one of the are you going to listen to this when for your drive? Because I know you like the podcast. So are you gonna?
I don't know. It's kind of
is that kind of weird?
Like to watch yeah, it feels kind of weird. I'm not sure if.
All right, so
we'll
maybe
see. It'll be interesting to see what Nate does with it. So
yeah, so I don't know. I'm already envisioning it now. You driving on your long commute, and you're going to be listening to it. I think most people that do listen to it, yeah. I think for the most part they were like, oh yeah, that's kind of helpful. But I do understand too. On the flip side, I was like, that might be kind of weird. But anyways, thank you for taking time out of your day, and just thanks for sharing your journey with us so far.
Yeah, thank you. You guys have a nice holiday.
Yeah, you too. For all of you listeners out there, final few things before we part ways. First off, if you're listening on YouTube, make sure to check out the rest of the channel, various other videos there. So hopefully, ultimately, you decide to subscribe. If you're listening on iTunes or one of the other players, especially on iTunes, if you could leave us a rating, hopefully a good one, that really does go a long way. And it helps us out and just gets the name of the podcast out there more and lets us know that you are enjoying these. And then finally, if you're listening on our site itself, then leave us a comment, click that share button. We will read the comments and reply to them. And, it just really helps out. So thank you again to Chris. Thank you again to Ches. And as always, thank you again to all of you as listeners. We will see you back next week.
This has been the Stock Trading Reality Podcast. Thanks for taking the time to hang out. To learn more about Clay and the Clay Trader community, including the trading team, premium training, and more, visit claytrader.com.